Okay, so you just finished an activity where you were supposed to see a connection between the number of lines and the possible number of zeros. So I want you to start out by writing this function here, y equals x squared minus 4. And if I asked you what's the degree of this function, you should know that now. That the way you find the degree is you look at this has a degree of 2, you look at each term separately. This doesn't have any letter or exponent up there at all, so this one has a degree of 2. This one, if it's just a constant, has a degree of 0. And we always take the biggest one. You did that in 7.1. So the degree of this function would be 2. What I'd like you to do right now is take a second and graph that function on your graphing calculator. So type that in. Go ahead and hit pause on this video. And once you have it typed in and graphed, then start the video again. Okay, this is what it should look like on your paper right now, or on your calculator right now, is this. And if you remember, we said that this was y equals x squared minus 4. And you can see the degree. Now, if you didn't copy this down on your paper yet, copy this picture down on your paper, because I'm going to have you circle a couple things. Okay, once you have it copied down, I want you to focus on the zeros. And see how we have a 0 right here. We have a 0 right here. It's also called the solution. And it looks like there are 2 of them. And you'll also notice that the degree was 2. So it looks like there's a connection between the degree and the possible number of zeros here. After you've done that one, then I'd like you to write this function down, y equals x to the third minus 3x squared plus 1. And let's do the same thing here. Let's find the degree of this function. And again, pretty simple. You look at each term separately. You know that the degree of the first term is 3. The degree of the second term is 2. The degree of the last term is 0. By the way, you should know that this is a trinomial. And we look at the biggest degree, and it is 3. So this trinomial has a degree of 3. Okay, I'd like you to take a second again and go ahead and graph this function right here on your calculator, and then copy that picture down. Go ahead and pause this video until that's done. And then once it's done, go ahead and start it up again. Okay, this is what your picture should look like. And I'd like you to go ahead and circle the zeros or the solutions. So we have one right here, right here, right here. And it looks like there are 3 solutions. And remember, the function that we wrote was this. And it had a degree of 3. And there are 3 solutions. So it looks like the degree, again, matches with the solutions. Okay, for our next one, I'd like you to write this function, y equals, and those other ones were written in standard form. Let's write this one in factored form, x plus 3, x minus 4. In fact, on your notes, let's go back here a second. And this very first one that I gave you, that is in standard form. If you could add that to your notes, that is in standard form. And in fact, the second one that I gave you is also in standard form. This one that I'm going to give you now is going to be in factored form. So this one that I gave you is in factored form. It's in factored form because we can see the linears, and it looks like we have two linears. We have a linear function right here, and we have a linear function right here, both of degree 1. So you might think that this function altogether has a degree of 1, but it's made up of two linears. And if we wrote it in standard form, I think it would look a little different. Go ahead and graph that in factored form on your graphing calculator. Hit pause on this until you have it done and you have it copied on your paper. Okay, so this is what it should look like. And we have two linears. And go ahead and circle the zeros, or the solutions. And you'll notice that we have two solutions. Remember the function we wrote was x plus 3, x minus 4. It looks like there's two linears and there's two solutions, two zeros. So there's a connection between the number of linears also and the number of zeros there. Okay, now with what you've done so far, I'd like you to finally do these 4 questions here and write those right on your interactive tutorial, just like you did in 7.1.